we're seeing some programs coming up for the Historical Society.
Right. We've got Historical Society's got a number of programs. This is the busy season. And they'll run through April. And Valerie Marvin, who is the head of the Greater Lansing, the Historical Society of Greater Lansing.
See, even Bill can't get it straight. Yeah, you got to change the name of it.
Lansing History.
Too much paperwork.
Lansing History, that's what your website is. That's nice and neat and clean, yes.
And there's a program this week, right, Valerie?
It is. It's on Thursday evening. We are bringing in Professor Ann Harrison, who is retired from MSU, who's giving a talk called 1847, A Year of Beginnings. 1847 was the year that Lansing actually became the capital. And it's kind of a funny story as to how it happened. At the time, Lansing did not exist. There was a township, which was the most loosely organized form of government we had. And the state basically decided to come to Lansing because there was nothing else here and no one was going to tell them what to do. So they could come in and they could plot out their own capital city exactly as they wanted to. Whereas all the other cities, like Marshall, that had been campaigning hard to become the capital, already had town fathers, already had set restrictions about where you could develop and what you could do. And, there the capital would have been out in a field on the edge of town. In Lansing, they could build the entire city around it if they wanted to. Plus, it was a good way to not favor any established city over the other, and therefore not really favor any legislator over
So Detroit
another.
was never in the running to become the capital city?
Well, Detroit was the original capital. When Michigan became a state, Detroit had been the territorial capital, and it became the state capital. But in the state's first constitution, they included a mandate that said by 1847, they would have to leave. So in good government fashion, we've ignored this until, 6 months before the deadline and then panicked.
I see.
And in the meantime, every town around Michigan put their hat in the ring. We had suggestions theoretically as far north as Copper Harbor, which
Copper Harbor
was a joke.
Whoa.
You couldn't even get to Copper Harbor really by land at the time. I mean, there were Indian trails and that was about it. So the most direct...
Some people might say that's not a bad idea.
Right. The most direct route was a boat ride from the Pictured Rocks area, actually. No, excuse me, Whitefish Point, I think it was. So that was obviously not going to happen. But Lansing was not much more logical. I mean, it was logical in terms of geography, because when you look at where people were settled in Michigan, even to this day, Lansing tends to be towards the population center. Not the geographic center by any stretch, but the population center. And also, as I said, the state could come in and do as they wished.
Now, did somebody get rich because they owned all that land and that was...
Actually, they put the capital, and I'm talking about the wooden capital, which was across the street from the present building. It was part of the Section 16 portion of land that was actually going to be sold. It was state-owned, and it was going to be sold with the idea that the money would be used to build schools and libraries.
Oh.
So this was another nice thing, was we had this bit of land. Now, there were others who owned land around it that could profit from it, certainly. But this sort of got around some of the speculation problems also.
Now, the professor who's coming is a historian who looks specifically at Michigan history, or
That's not her background.
Oh.
Her background is actually in French history.
French history? I see.
But-
Okay, that fits.
After
One of those.
After many years of teaching, she retired, and she continued to teach with the evening college program for a long time, and has just used it as an excuse to explore different things that are interesting to her. And since the evening college program has largely... It hasn't completely gone away, but it's changed significantly.
It's sort of been redefined somewhat out of existence,
Yes,
it seems,
yes.
because people can't find it easily
Right.
anymore.
And she's no longer teaching with them, so she actually offers classes free of charge for anyone in the community who wants to come out at Bircham Hills, actually,
that's
in their
kinda cool.
community room.
Yeah.
And I've attended many of them: Irish history, the history of Constantinople, and so on. She teaches on all sorts of topics, just by what interests her. And as a longtime Lansing resident, she thought, well, what was happening in the world in 1847? We know Lansing was barely non-existent. I mean, when Lansing became the capital, there were 8 registered voters who lived here.
Oh, wow, that's a real voting block. Yeah,
Which means we probably, you can figure, had a population of 100-ish. If you
wow.
figure, at the time, white men who were 21 years and older and owned property could vote.
That was it, yes.
So you figure approximately 1 voter per family, probably. And, but, there was a lot happening other places in the world. And Lansing may have been a little tiny backwater community, but things were buzzing. 1847 was an important year. For example, the Mormons reached what would become Salt Lake City in 1847. There were medical advances that were happening. Sort of an odd little fact, but the first time chloroform was used actually as a sedative for surgery was in Edinburgh in 1847.
Anesthetic, yeah.
Yes, you had the Mexican War, of course, that was going on. The country was involved with. The whole country was wrapped up in the question of slavery,
Right.
which of course would boil over not too long after. And just some funny, quirky things. I was Googling around the other day, and someone claims that the donut was created in 1847.
Wow, hey, there's a landmark
Not
for
the
it.
Not Punchki,
Or
no.
the cronut, yes, my personal
But there were
favorite.
also, bigger things that happened. There was a meeting in England, or excuse me, yeah, I believe it was England, that today historians look at as being the founding of the Communist Party, actually, that
Oh,
was taking
interesting.
place. Samuel Colt started selling his revolvers to the U.S. government. Think of all the repercussions of that over time.
Bill and I were talking a bit today about how much we like digging out little historical nuggets. I spent my Christmas vacation researching the life of Mary Houghton, who was a gleaner in the 17th century in Suffolk, England, right? And it was the one fact that just appealed to me so much was finding out that if you took your fruits and vegetables to market, they didn't have running water to get them clean, so you used saliva, which I think was it's just one of those wonderful little.
Borrow a cup of saliva or
And then
what?
I don't know. I guess you just sort of lick the apples, put them out, which
hope
sort of explains why the Black Death got around a few years earlier.
I hope everyone
so.
went home and boiled them
Boiled
before
them
eating
down.
them.
So are there experts on Mary Houghton?
Well, there are two. There is one there.
One might be here.
One is at the University of Tasmania. This is a big growing field. You can tell how important it is. And the other one is at the University of Leicester. So yes, I've been spending a lot of time digging into those old little archives. So I'm assuming your person loves those kinds of nuggets
Oh,
as well.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Great little historical nuggets to throw in. So this program is going to be
It's Thursday evening. It's free. It's open to the public. There's more information
Capital Area
on our
District
website.
Library again?
Yep.
Yeah.
Capital Area District Library downtown. It's
Okay.
at 7 p.m. in the basement auditorium. And there's a little more information about the event on our website, which is lansinghistory.org.
which you really should change your name to. Yes, Lansing History.
Wouldn't it
Do you
be
know how much,
easy?
do you
Wouldn't
know
that
how
be
much
nice?
paperwork that requires?
I know. Signage, it's always the signage that kills you. So this Thursday night, give us the name of the person who is speaking again.
Professor Ann Harrison.
Professor Ann Harrison. It's going to be Lansing in 1847.
Yes.
Where were you in 1847? Well,